There's a lot of similarities, as you said, between Homer's Odyssey and Iliad. Did Virgil draw inspiration from them, or was it just downright intellectual property there?
No, it's definitely well, it's definitely just inspiration, But I mean, as anything, well, in any literature now, you can sort of pay homage through allusions to other works, yeah. And in a sense, well, as it is following from the epic cycle, it does make sense to name places Homer and the Odyssey relate to. But it's and 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 it often he just references characters, he references events, and well, the structure, the first 5 book, 6 books are Aeneas's journey, and that mimics Odysseus's journey in the Odyssey. And the next 6 books, apart from book 6, which is something else completely, is the war, the Iliad type of books. But obviously, I mean the Iliad and the Odyssey were the 2 most important books in the in the world, in Rome, in the Western world. We know nothing about China and India. Forget about those places. And but yeah, but in ancient Rome, know that part of the world, the Iliad and the Odyssey. It said, I'm not sure you know this, but there's Alexander the Great when he was on his tutor, his personal tutor was Aristotle, the philosopher. What amazing that! But then he had him and Aristotle went over the Iliad together, and when he was on campaign, he'd sleep beside his copy of the Iliad. So it's such an important text. So Virgil had to had to take he had to reference that. Even in poets such as Ovid, love poetry and other people, they're always referencing these things, because it's just yeah, it's the culture, I guess. It's very important.
So why then will, say, Homer's Iliad be more well known than, say, Virgil's Aeneid?
I think perhaps because Homer's Iliad is well, it is ancient in the sense it was written a long time ago, well, before Virgil's Aeneid, and it's oral poetry as well. So and there's a bit of mystery behind it as well. There's the idea that yeah, Homer was a bard, he sung it, and then it's sort of taken down in history, adapted by people. Was there one Homer? Was there different Homers? And I guess it is the story of the Trojan War, and the Trojan War, in some sense, you can see it as the moment when so the mythical world before that, sort of becomes history. Because Troy did fall. There was an ancient city called Troy, and Troy did. The city was destroyed in history. Like there is evidence for that. So that yeah, but obviously the Iliad's all about gods and stuff coming down. So maybe that's not completely true. But it's interesting to see that, and I think perhaps with the Iliad it stands out more than the Aeneid is because it a foundational work, I guess you could say. And then there are these big heroes, there's Achilles, and then there's Hector, and that, yeah, it's a war book, So I guess perhaps that's why it stands out more.
In classic antiquity, the writing very much reflects the writer's personality and
Mhm.
style. From the Aeneid, what can we deduce from Virgil's character by writing style?
That's it's a great question about that. I'm actually applying some masters on that. On that thing right now, so that's great. So yeah, so although I think well, there's a great Proust line from the French writer Marcel Proust, and he says that he talks about he's watching this musical performance of this composer who's just passed away, and he watches it and he still has a meltdown when he's watching it 'cause it's so beautiful, and he realizes that that's what art is all about, and art is he says a great line. He said, "Oh, like if you could give me a superpower, I wouldn't take wings. I wouldn't take to a I wouldn't make myself young again because then I'd just be myself and looking at the world as I normally do. The true superpower is to see the world, see the 100 worlds that everyone else sees. Yeah, and that's the superpower, and that's what art allows you to do is to see the world through other people's eyes. And that's a great line from Proust. And I think that's the most important thing in any book. We're reading the perspective of someone else, and that's why Proust's book himself is so important. But I think Virgil, it's a bit harder. For example, you have Horace, who's Virgil's contemporary. They were good friends. Maecenas loved Horace as well. Maecenas gave Horace a farm for the stuff he wrote, and Horace was saying, "Oh, thank you for my farm." But Horace's poetry is very public. He's saying, "I did this. I think this should happen." Yeah, and stuff like that. Whereas Virgil is definitely more in his eclogues. He's a bit more outspoken, and and in the Georgics, his second work, he does reference occasionally his other side. In At the end of the Georgics, the last line is him referring to this is written by me, who initially began by writing these little poems about shepherds. But the Aeneid is definitely a lot more difficult to work it out because yeah, it's very hard. But there's two main voices on this. I could go forever about this, but there's two main voices where there's sort of the official stance. When you read it, you think, okay, this is propaganda in a sense. This is mythologizing Rome. Aeneas is this good guy. He's embodying Augustus. This is a good Roman mission. This is our story. And then there's so much more you can go into. And in the Latin, there's so many echoes, so many words used specifically, which cast doubt on that, which cast a sense that, well, perhaps Aeneas isn't the greatest guy ever. And it casts doubt on what's really going on. And if Virgil really believes this, or if in fact, and a sort of current theme which runs throughout all of Virgil's work is the idea that sort of peace can only be achieved through war, and like there's no real peace because there's no real victory from war because everyone just dies. And there's a great moment in his Georgics where he just talks about a farmer farming, and then suddenly in the future he'll be digging up these great bones of men who have passed away in the civil wars and big shields, and that's a big bit in Virgil's Aeneid as well. And it's great because as any book, you sort of have to read the author in, one could argue. And the reason why Virgil Aeneid, I would argue, stands the test of time, and also the Iliad and the Odyssey, is because these characters are so complex and so relatable.